Hello, everybody. It's Joshua Hayes here at BigWaveTrading.com coming to you with the April 6th stock market wrap-up. I was going to start this about 10 minutes ago, but the chart system wasn't fully updated. However, now it's got the market close at the top, and now I can go through each index. First off, I want to show you that today's market session was pretty overall tightly round up. Excuse me. It didn't go too far up, didn't go too far down. As you can see, it only pulled back 1.3% on the New York Stock Exchange. Volume was very low, had a very nice intraday pattern basically. Let's look at the S&P 500 to see if it looks like the New York Stock Exchange. Excuse me. And as you can see, same thing. Has another bullish tail just like the day before. You can see I say 835, 842, today 839, 835. So it's in between that little range. Intraday is moved in 2 days, 0.13%. But it has the bullish tail signaling that it's trying to hammer out a recent low right here around the 50-day moving average. Notice how volume has contracted each day after the big up almost 3% day. That's a very bullish thing to see. Let's see if we also see that in the NASDAQ. NASDAQ, we sure do. Volume comes back lower each day after 3 days in a row of rise. First big day of rise, 1.78. Next big day of rise, 1.51. Next big day, 3.29. That's 3 accumulation days in a row on higher volume each day. So the market was starting to look strong. Then it had another up day, but then it started to pull back, lower volume. And then after that last up day on the 3rd, it also had lower volume, which now makes it look like it's been lower volume, lower volume. However, really just the last of the 4 days uptrend was on lower volume. But now still a pullback today, lower volume, that looks good. So even though the NASDAQ looks good, I have a personal problem. I once again have another full sell, and that goes on top of my 3 full sells from Friday, which means in the past 2 days, the NASDAQ is up 0.25%, yet I have made 1, 2, 3, 4 full sells. Not only that, I have 3 partial sells today. Wait a minute. 4. I didn't write down the last one. Holy moly, I did not write down my last one. I have 4 partial sells today. I cannot believe I didn't write that last one down. And I'm going to show you all. I'm going to show them all to you guys in part 2. When we come back in part 2, I want you to know it was a very dull day today. There's not much in the scans that are going to make you go, wow. However, I'll show the few that still look good. Instead, what we're going to go over is we're going to go over the no longs, no shorts. We're going to, of course, go over the 1 full sell, the 1 full cover, the 1 part cover, and then the 4 part sells. Why is it New York Stock Exchange, you can see the last 3 days. Let's get up close, actually, in April. You can see in the last 3 days, it's up 3.22%. Look at the New York Stock Exchange. Last 3 days, 3.22%. S&P 500, last 3 days, 3.01%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, just to show you that the strength on the short term, up 2.76%. Look at the NASDAQ, last 3 days, up 3.55%. Look at the S&P 600. The bottom line here with all this, it's been pretty strong, right? 4.74%. You've noticed some strong days. However, what have I been complaining about the entire rally? Leading indexes. IBD leading market indexes by let's go here and look at the IBD 100 as it's the most well used, I guess. Look at the daily action of it. Now, the last 3 days while the market's up like 4% for the SP 600, look at what it's done here. Down slightly today, down a little under 0.1%. It was barely up here on that day. Let's see, what does it say? Up 0.24. So it wasn't even up 0.5%. And then the day before, it was up almost a little over 1%. So it was a little over 1%, and then it couldn't go much further. While during that time, the S&P 600's up 4%. Look at it on a weekly. As you can see, this week started off with the small drop today, the 1.2%. It only counts today. That's where IBD is good compared to Telechart. But look at the last 3 weeks' rally. You had the 1 rally, 7. So that was 3. That was a 3% gain. Then you had one where it was even barely up. Then you had a week where it was up 2%, still lagging the index. And then you had another week where it was up a little under 1%. Once again, lagging the index. So the IBD 100 here on the weekly and then on the daily is clearly lagging something like this NASDAQ, which as you can see during that time, while one index is up 4%, another one's up 26%. Now, in 2002 and 2003, I've shown you those charts. Please, if you haven't looked at them, go back to 2002 and 2003 and look at how we sold off on lower volume before we started rally and all these big volume days, kind of like you see now. But you would have had these volume bars below the yellow line. Just go look to see what it looked like. And then back then, look at how many stocks started to show up at Max Green Bot charts and then continued and broke out. They were all over the place. They worked. They weren't in the situation that we're in right now where we have the market indexes up 26% off the lows. We have higher volume hitting the indexes and lower volume on the pullbacks, yet we have zero charts with Max Green Bot now, Max Green Bot before on the previous uptrend in March or February or even from November, that then has broken out and then kept Max Green Bot all the while with heavy accumulation, good price action. That hasn't happened. And in 2002 and 2003, sorry, there were a few perfect charts. And as 2003 went along, a few went to a handful went to a couple of handfuls of near perfect to perfect charts. Guys, we still don't have any. We had one that was trying to set up, and it's going to hit us with a partial loss today. But at least we got to sell 50%, and we're taking a small loss. We're not taking a itty bitty tiny loss. We're taking a over 5% to a 10% loss. Like, this is shocking. This is not how bull markets act. So I'm sorry. You've got our markets up, the Nasdaq up 26%. Indexes having at least 4 days of much higher volume with prices up. Volumes coming in below the index shares. Still, the IBD 100 is clearly not leading at all. It's gone from 136 at the start to 155. I'm sorry, folks. That's horrible. That's horrible. So it hasn't even moved 10%. While something else has moved 26%. And don't forget, at the same time, if you think that, oh, well, our indexes are doing well, don't forget in China, where a real bull market's happening, from the March lows, they're up 15% only. However, from the November lows, they're killing our markets. They're up 41%. Compare that to the Nasdaq's move since its November lows of 16%. So clearly, we're not leading. Money's not being poured into our markets like it used to be. So that kind of makes me nervous. I'm nervous that we don't have the Max Green Bot charts, yet we've had a rally go this long. I'm nervous that leading indexes and leading stocks aren't leading. I'm nervous that the number one index for the 6 month starts to have stocks breaking out and they reverse immediately. I'm nervous that I have 4 partial sells today, 1 complete sell on top of the 3 full sells on Friday, along with no new longs. Even though I did have 1 new long on Friday, and it did make me money today, so I got to admit that's at least a small victory. Still, bottom line is, I'm getting nervous. So, let me go and show you oil. Right now, oil's holding in between the 55 and 35 area. I kind of thought it was going to be 50 and 35. We'll see if oil gets back down into that. And then platinum. Platinum's holding in there, being very bullish. Since it's big up 6.24% day, I thought it would have to pull back, but it never did, and it's still up 1.69%. But now, more troubling to me, it's not good. Look at silver. This is shocking, folks. This was not how it's supposed to happen technically. Since this happened, if you were using the 50-day and 200-day moving average to take positions in silver and gold, this is a complete full sell out of everything. So if you bought silver here with the strong move above the 50 and hold, and you need to be out. So you're only going to be leaving with a 13% gain. I'm sorry that this is shocking. Like I said, shocking. Had you got it here over you had 35% gain at the top, but after it moved over to the 200-day moving average, you would have cut your loss here. But then it looked like it was going to work again whenever it bounced off the 50 and then broke over the 200. Still, it failed there. But then you got your golden cross. This is just so odd, folks. You had your golden cross. You're moving it. Your stock now bouncing right off the averages. It starts to bounce off the area telling you, yes, you do go long here. And now it breaks down. Boom, you're hit with a huge 5 to 6% loss, silver. Now, number one, I'm glad I don't invest that way. I prefer bullion. I'm telling you. I'm buying my gold and silver for a reason in case all hell breaks loose. I'm putting 20% in gold, silver, and I'm holding it for 25 to 50 to 100 years. This is not what I'm getting involved in gold for. The gold stocks I tried to go long, yes, I were. They looked like they were breaking out and running. Gold was the number one group, but they reversed. And remember, I even told you I was worried about that. And then it happened. So major worry. So silver sucking it up, and of course gold sucking it up. However, gold is bouncing right off the 200-day moving average. So if you use the moving averages, you would be wanting, after right here, having to cut some of your loss from the initial buys back over the 50. You sold some down here in March. You had to sell more here, especially in April with the way silver acted yesterday on top of gold and the market. And then today, with the drop, that was bad, and then today's drop being right at the 200-day moving average, that's bad, but it had touched the 200-day moving average, you'd want to buy it. Me personally, as soon as gold hits 800, guess who's going to make a phone call to a gold dealer to buy around $25,000 to $50,000 more in gold? That's me. Okay, anybody, we have a subscriber in town. Part 2 is coming up next, and I'm going to go into detail, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But that's it from me. No commentary from me. You're going to be looking from John Ward or Chris May tonight. Aloha.